Everyone has their own paths in their lives. There are so many possibilities to do anything you want in any way you want. And the most famous or successful stories coming from forging their own paths have led to inspire others to do similar things. Some come from poor families and work their way up. Some don't have any support and have to go it alone. Some usually have someone who can give them a leg up and they can forge their own paths. Either way, any of these involve sheer determination. Successful stories have always been filled with determination, and it gives anyone hope because they can be like them. There are people who look up to people because of their success stories. It shows that people can be inspirations to blaze their own paths. The best paths are the ones that blaze their own trail and say who gave their inspiration so others can go back and see where their paths all started. But what happens when one follows a path to a fault, and they start strong but they fizzled out? This has happened before, but there is one path that I was interested in. We all know the 8 Mile soundtrack album because of the song Lose Yourself. However, because it was still a time when we could listen to albums all the way through, and with this album, this is where we heard of a certain up-and-comer who went by the name 50 Cent. He was signed on in 2002 by Shady Records after he was discovered by Eminem, who heard his mixtape, which we will get back to. Then, in 2003, he released his major label debut, Get Rich or Die Tryin', which was released to positive reviews and, as of 2020, was certified 9 times platinum. With 5 noteworthy songs that included In the Club, PIMP, and 21 Questions, one could truly believe the hype. There was also the song he did with Lil' Kim called Magic Stick that really got decent airplay. This man seemingly came out of nowhere with this high standard of glam rap album. He also got together with a few rappers who call themselves G-Unit, who released their debut album, Beg for Money, months after Get Rich came out. It was a success, going 2 times platinum by 2008. Sure, it was a lesser success, but because 50 was successful in his own, the album was lucky to have any success at all. So how does he follow an instant classic album that is highly regarded even today? Hangover 2 it. The Massacre was released 2 years later and it was successful, but not as successful as its previous album. It kind of repeated the same ideas that the previous album did, and it just wasn't interesting. But there was something new in 50's career. His semi-autobiographical movie Get Rich or Die Tryin' was released that same year, and it was panned by critics, who compared it to another movie a few years earlier. But maybe his next album would improve on things. The album, Curtis, was set to be released in September 11, 2007, on the same day as Graduation by Kanye West. The two went head-to-head for an album sales competition. 50 stated that if Kanye's album sold more, he would stop releasing solo material, though he added a problem by taking back his words. In the end, Graduation sold over 900,000 copies in its first week, while Curtis sold over 600,000. And with 50 taking back his retirement comment, he got a scorn of backlash over those words, and the album had negative reviews due to a lack of progression, and this is when 50's music career began to take a downturn. His next album was largely ignored, and the next G-Unit album was the same way. Sure, he has acting appearances over time, but his music career was never the same since 2003. I mentioned earlier that people look to success stories to forge their own path, but sometimes one path is a little too similar. I also mentioned in my last video that one could only hope that something starts off weak just to get their footing down and get better as time goes on. In 50's case, these sentences kind of ring true. He started off strong, but his releases got weaker as time went on, and as for the path forging, well, has anyone noticed that he may have tried to have a career path like Eminem? Both their careers had similar paths. Eminem had made his mark with an EP before being signed on by a well-known rapper, like 50 Cent. Eminem's major label debut turned him into a celebrity overnight, just like 50 Cent's debut. Hell, both of them had side projects, with Eminem with D12 and 50 Cent with G-Unit. It's pretty clear looking closely that 50 tried to have Eminem's career to success instead of blazing his own, not knowing why Eminem's career was successful in the first place. And for that, we should go to their respective movies. Get Rich or Die Trying, and the movie that people had compared it to, Eminem's 8 Mile. 8 Mile is about a man who wants to escape his hellhole life through music, and things just don't go the way he plans. He's a strong man with ambitions, but at the same time he lacks confidence, like when he freezes in the beginning of the movie. He can't spit out the lyrics because his mind is blanking, despite him preparing for it. He also has a dead-end job. He's barely making a living. He has friends that are different, but you can see that there's a charm to them. They can be stupid, they can be smart, they can get into fights, but at the same time you can feel the love in this tight-knit group. Specifically, M's character and Makai's character, who is based on his friend Proof. He doesn't care about Eminem's skin color, he just wants to help his friend do better in music, and he will do anything to help him. This movie mostly holds up because of its applicability. Most of us have been here, whether it's barely making it in life, finding a passion that you don't think you can do sometimes, or even being picked on because of the color of your skin or anything else. Most of us can relate to this. With Get Rich or Die Trying the movie, it's just a gangster movie that we've seen before. Sure, it's based on his life, but not all of us can relate to getting shot 9 times, and it's not something we want to relate to. Along the fact that it's a rags to riches story worth 50 tries in the end, while Eminem's character does succeed in getting over most of his problems, but he's not rich. He's not getting a recording contract. He's still living the same way, but still trying to reach his potential, never giving up. Success is never immediate. It takes time. That is why 8 Mile is superior to Get Rich and Die Trying. That and 8 Mile is not a title of any Eminem album. And speaking of albums, another thing that 50 Cent probably didn't realize why Eminem had a longer career was one word: variety. Eminem has a wide range that goes from horrorcore to hardcore to rap rock to comedy hip-hop to introspective to political hip-hop. Eminem, good or bad, has broadened his horizons, rarely being in the same place, and even if he's in familiar territories, he adds a new spin to it. With 50 Cent, he does what he does best, gangster or glam rap, but he keeps going back to that well over and over and over again, to the point where newer people who go into his best album will be hard-pressed to find why it was so good in the first place. He just seems like a product of his time. He was supposed to have released his 6th album in 2011, then 2012, then 2013, then 2016, but as of this video in 2021, nothing has been released, and no one is saying anything about it. His music success was short-lived. Sometimes the best paths taken are the ones that have a unique story. There can be similarities, but just because you follow the exact same path doesn't mean you'll have the exact same success. And if you do follow it, you have to see how these people set themselves apart from other musicians. It's arguably that if Eminem didn't sign him, 50 would not have been well known. In fact, his breakthrough song, In the Club, was because of Eminem. How so? The song was not supposed to be a 50 Cent song. It was supposed to be a D12 song for the 8 Mile soundtrack album, but it never came together for them. And speaking of the 8 Mile album, do you know why that soundtrack album was more well known than the Get Rich album? The end song played at the end of Get Rich or Die Trying, Hustler's Ambition. The end song played at the end of 8 Mile, Lose Yourself. Which song was more popular since then? Which song has an Academy Award to its name to the point where the artist finally ended up performing it at the Academy Awards years later to high applause? How many people remember Hustler's Ambition more than Lose Yourself? It's unfair to compare, but when one is trying to have the same career path, how can you not? And remember that compilation album that got him signed to Shady Records? The title of the album? Guess Who's Back? Though this is a coincidence since the album was released a month before Without Me. And since we are talking about soundtrack albums, there is another one I would like to talk about next video. Thank you for watching this video. Did you like what you see? Please leave a like. Do you have any comments about this video? Please leave a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and click on the notification. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.